Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is Jonathan Budd back with another incredible interview for you all today. And I have to admit that I am excited, curious, even in a state of wonderment about what is going to come out of the next 45 minutes that we spend together. Because I have the one and only Miss Laura Hollick with me today from the Soul Art Studio. Now, Laura's lived a pretty incredible life, as you're soon going to hear. Now, Laura has known from a pretty early age that her life, her path, was art. And I think that, at least I can speak for myself, I did not know what my path was very early on at all. I'm sure many people it takes some time to figure it out, but this woman has known from a very early age, and her path has taken her into some incredible places. She had her own show on Bravo for 4 years, which was all about art and all about, I'm sure she's going to tell you more, what it's like to live an artist's lifestyle. She had a newspaper column. She's been featured all over the place. And then she had this amazing transition where she realized that she wasn't being compensated, she wasn't being financially rewarded for the value of her gifts. And she shifted from art, just for the pure sake of art, to also art and business. And actually having a business that rewards you for the art that you're doing in the world. So I think we're going to get into a fascinating adventure here today. I'm so glad you're all with me. Laura, welcome. It's so amazing to have you here.
I'm thrilled.
I'm so thrilled too.
Yeah.
And maybe take like 2 minutes to give people the essence of who you are and where you come from and what your story is.
All right. Well, we'll probably go into lots of things, but the one thing that I feel really expresses my essence is kind of a belief system in a way, where I believe that we are art. Like we're creating ourselves, we are a creation, and it's an unfolding process. So I approach my life in that way, and now I approach my business in that way. And so everything I consider in that way, like from what I'm eating, what I wear, how my marketing will look like, all of that, I approach it as art and a creative process.
And I'm sure that you've seen some pretty powerful results from doing that.
It's been fascinating. It's amazing. And I feel like right now, at this point in history, as business has the opportunity to be really anything. Because of the internet, it doesn't have to serve the masses initially. It can serve a niche and it can grow, so you can develop. And because of that, people are experimenting more. They have the opportunity to let it become something. And as a creative person, that matches me perfectly. Because when you're doing something creatively, you don't know the outcome. And in business, that's almost counterintuitive. Business wants to know it's going to make a profit, it's going to generate some kind of result. But art is the opposite to that. So like bringing them together is an experiment, it's a process, it's a journey. And I love being on that journey and in that process. So I'm so thrilled to talk about this with you.
Well, I think that the journey that we're going to be on here today in particular is so important because there's a power that happens when you make your business your art in some form or shape or another. And I can speak for myself. I know that, my creativity, in how I channeled my creativity into business has helped me enormously. And I feel like all of us are in some way looking to tap into our own creativity more. How do we channel our creativity into our business more? How do we just be more creative in general? Because that's where we get our best ideas. That's where the most magic comes from. And so I really see this interview today, in part, diving super deep into how we all become more creative individuals and channel this life force, this wisdom, whatever's coming through us, into something in the world, into our businesses and something that represents us. So I'm really excited. And so I guess just to start, let's rewind the clocks a little bit. Let's see how, because here you are today, you went from totally struggling artist, even though you had all sorts of publicity and success.
Totally,
You were
yep.
just sharing with me that you were negotiating trades with friends for food and stuff like
yeah.
that. So, it sort of dawned on you, I want to change this.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got this thriving, multiple six-figure business, all doing what you love. You're expanding every single year. You've done these huge campaigns. I know some of them you're probably going to talk about. You've got your new Icon movie. You've got your new Icon Essence and all sorts of other things that you've done. Rewind the clock for us a little bit and tell us how it all started.
When I was growing up, I lived in a place there was a lot of nature around, and I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in nature and imagine, which was perfect for me because I felt very disconnected from this world. Like I came in here and yes, I kind of was familiar with my essence and always knew I was creative, but I didn't know how I was existing in this world. Like it felt off. So being in nature was a way to feel at home. And while I was in nature, I would just imagine. And the imagination was visions, and I felt like, oh, that's my home. And so art for me was this journey to make my home real. So it was almost like a survival mechanism to feel like I could be here. So I would make art to surround me and give me like a nest to exist in. And then as I was growing up, they became more and more elaborate, these visions and full on, like I would become art and I would do costumes and sets and films and dancing and modeling, and it just got more and more elaborate so I could literally become the art. But in that, I never really considered that, oh, you have to pay for it. Like I just wanted to be home in myself and create my life that felt good, but I didn't know that money was a piece to that until the shock moment when suddenly I'm on my own. I have a place, I'm like, oh, I have to pay for this. There's a bill coming and someone's got to pay and I'm the only one. And it sounds really simple, like almost a naive thought, but that was true. I went to University for Fine Art, came out and thought, well, I'll just continue doing my art. And I got a studio and they said, oh, the rent is due at this time. And I was processing that. Like I had to understand that I had to generate that money to pay for it. And and just doing the art, money didn't come sort of exuding out of the pores of the art. And so the journey then was really, first of all, recognizing that it was a necessity. But then since I already had the skill of being creative, I'm like, how can I use my creativity? Because it's really all I knew. How can I use that to generate money? And that's launched another whole journey. But when I look back in my life, really art was a way, a mechanism to feel at home in the world, to create my own home.
So I want to hear about some of the things that you've done based out of your commitment to this art. Because we were just talking just briefly before this interview, and it hit me, what you were willing to do to really live a path that is aligned with your values, that is aligned with your heart. And so tell us more about the story. What happened from the studio?
Money, money, then suddenly...
How did it keep progressing?
So I felt a little desperate, and I was like, I just go for walks, because being in nature felt good. So I'm walking in nature, and I'm like, please, anything, creator, universe, what do I do? Like, I don't know, and it felt like nobody could tell me. There was no example. My parents, they were not role models of what I was here to do. They were they were of that generation that you get a job and that's what you do. And so that wasn't going to help me. Like, I didn't feel like that was the way. And I was just asking for anything. And the message that I got was to walk it out. It said, walk it out. And I'm like, okay, I'm walking, what does that mean? And so I'm walking, and each day I was walking, and I just thought, like a message is going to come. And I thought I could get paid to walk. And so I ended up applying for a job at Canada Post to be a letter carrier. And I got this job, and when I got the job, I wrote a contract between me and the creator, the universe, and I said, I'm going to walk 10,000 kilometers. So I'm Canadian, so we're kilometers. And I think it's about 6,000 or 7,000 miles.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It was a lot. I'm going to walk these 10,000 kilometers, and at the end, I want to know how to make money being an artist. So I got this job, and so to me, that was my vision quest, that I was going to walk this, and somehow I was going to download or receive the guidance of what to do. And then the funny thing that happened is I got the job, and they called me up. They're like, "Congratulations, Laura. You're now stationed in transportation. You're going to be a truck driver." And so I was like, "Oh no, I've got to walk. This is about walking." And they're like, "Well, if you don't accept this, then you're off the list." So I actually drove a truck for a year.
Wow.
And it was hell on wheels. It was hell on wheels. And I created a piece of art to get me through this, and it was on the dashboard, and I focused. There was like dolphins with me and like a crown and guiding me. And I got through this year, and they transferred me to be a letter carrier, and then I started walking, and I walked for over 5 years. And I walked, 5 days a week, about 4 hours a day, and that was my 10,000 kilometers. And when I completed it, to the week that I completed is when I moved into the studio where I am now, which is when my business really was in the place to grow. Like it had a place it could grow, and I was ready. Like I did the inner work, not that it's ever done. I mean, I'm always going deeper. The deeper the roots, the more you can expand. And I really laid the foundation during that walk to go big, to let myself be. How?
Yeah, what was it?
Communicating with my essence, with life. I became, just on a subtle level, because I was outside every single day, I became so attuned to the changing seasons. Like I could smell when spring was coming. And it's almost like returning to naturalness. And now I'm not saying that that's a necessity to have that experience, but what it did do was my ability to know the subtlety of the messages that were coming to me were so finely tuned that when I had to make a business decision, I could literally almost smell or close my eyes and see something, feel something, and I would know with precision what direction, because I was so tuned to that.
And so these messages, this is almost like your inner voice or your inner wisdom.
It is.
How would you describe this so that everyone else, we can sort of tune into our own intuition?
I would love to guide that, because that's really what it boils down. We can hear this and it can almost seem abstract and out there, but until you have the experience, and then it's like, oh my gosh, amazing. So it's not necessarily, inner wisdom is one aspect. Inner wisdom is how we hear the voice of like a bigger energy. The inner wisdom is the way to hear it, but it's not actually, the inner wisdom is the translator for a bigger idea. And the bigger idea is almost like why are we here? If we're going to have a business, why? What's the business for? Like, yes, making money is one piece, but actually in the bigger picture, it's a very small piece. And eventually, we may even have a moneyless society. And I believe that will evolve as we are clear on what value really is, which money, I think, is a teacher for us. And as it teaches us, then we don't have the need for it to kind of keep us focused on the idea of value. We just will be value.
Yeah.
So, but I would love to guide for people to experience for themselves. Like, how do you tap into this? How do you get your creativity so it's in your business? And it's so simple. It's so simple. There's layers to it, but the simplest thing is to just be aware of like, what is your own joy? How do you experience your own joy? Because in that vibration of that, you're going to know like the maneuvering of your spirit and how it wants to work.
Interesting.
And when you can know that, if you're in a situation that's just like the truck driving, like I knew that I was not meant to be a truck driver. It was not me, because it didn't feel right. It was on my journey, a journey of me kind of clearing, but I ultimately knew it wasn't me because it didn't feel like my joy. So as soon as we know what that feels like, it starts to steer us. It starts to like say, oh, no, this way, that way, this way, that way. And yes, we have to clear, and it doesn't mean you're always in a state of joy. It doesn't mean that everything's happy all the time, but it's a navigational tool. So that's like a first thing I would say. It's very simple, because we all know joy. We know when we're in it. It's undeniable. No one can tell you joy, but when you're in it,
Feel.
that's joy.
Yeah.
So that would be a first step, I would say, to just get familiar. What is joyful for you?
Where do you feel the most joy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So, holy smokes, you walked 10,000 kilometers in order to birth your business.
I did.
What are you willing to do, everybody? That's pretty
committed.
incredible. And so during this 10,000 kilometer walk, as you were doing this deep work, and it's pretty amazing that you created a contract at the beginning of that with you and the universe that said, by the time this is over, I'm going to have my business where I make money for what I love. And that happened. So, I don't know, maybe we should all be writing contracts.
Well, actually, I'd like to say something on that, because
Yes,
it's a sacred container for something to happen. And a business is a sacred container for something to happen, but we get to decide what's the intention for that. And once we kind of, we set an intention, we create a container, and if we hold the space, it will happen. Wow. But we're like a sacred steward. We have to monitor that space. And so I had created that contract as a space for me, and I made it big enough so that there wasn't this pressure that, by next week I'm going to have $10,000.
Yeah.
Because of course, yes, that's possible,
Yeah.
but when you don't know how that feels, it feels impossible, and that actually shuts down the possibility. And so I created a big enough container that allowed me the space to nudge into it and feel like, okay, I can breathe into this without feeling like an avalanche of expectation.
That is awesome. And so, boom, 10,000 kilometers ends, and what happens? How all of a sudden, what happened then?
It was like little magical occurrences. So, the studio that I have now is phenomenal. I overlook the water. It was literally out of my dream, exactly what I imagined. So then I had the space.
Did you save up money to get that studio, or what sort of happened on the financial side?
Yeah, so on the money side. So I had been working, so I had been getting used to this idea of keeping track of money. And I had created these books for myself. So every month, I did a whole money process to look at, what came in, what went out, what did I spend, literally getting familiar with money and how it was flowing through me, and where did I want to spend money, even if I didn't have the money, where did I want to put it? Again, where's my joy leading me? And so I sort of had an invisible income or more outflow channel to things I wanted to create that I just wasn't ready yet, but it was I was building it through my joy in my imagination. And so I was getting aware of money through that 10,000 kilometers. And then when I got the studio, then it was I was ready to now I had been saving some money, put some into the things I wanted to, like creating the business, learning, having mentors and things like that. But then what happened is I actually overspent. I overspent those channels. They were I had a lot of joy going down. and so then I had created the vision, and then I was spending, but it's I still had to balance the income to the new idea, because I left the job, so I didn't have that source of income, and I needed to generate it from the art, and there was that transition period, balancing out the outflow to the inflow. And
so what's the first thing you did?
I launched a program. It was the Creativity Cleanse, actually. Yeah, now it's in its second edition, but that was the first thing that I launched online. And it was how to be creative.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so while I was that was sort of before computers, and then there was after computers. So my business started actually in 1999, which is a long time ago. But in that time frame, I also worked at Canada Post, because I didn't know how it was going to make money. But before I went to the computer end of it, I did workshops in my studio, soul art workshops. But then when I was able to figure out money and income stream, I launched the Creativity Cleanse.
How did you get on that path? Was there certain mentors, or how did you sort of discover the
yeah, it was like this
online
world
side of
opened,
things?
and there was it was just it was a magnet for me and literally thousands of others. There was this phase, and we're in it still now, but it's shifting with the computer and the online world. When I got in, it was almost the tail end of the masculine direct marketing approach, and it was the beginning of, women can enter this. And I entered at that point, and I could feel the pull for the female energy in there, the creativity. And so I worked with
Totally.
a lot of mentors, pretty much all the mentors that were leading at that time. I've learned from all of them. In fact, I learned so much from so many different people. I had thousands of CDs of all of the information I learned,
Wow.
and I made a dress called the Knowledge Dress, made out of all of these CDs of knowledge from all these people. Because I just reached a point where I had embodied the knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, I learned so much. But yeah, and I learned from everyone
That's so
online,
cool.
everyone
And
I
then
could.
you expressed it in a dress.
And yeah, exactly.
Wow, really interesting. So, I want to dive into some creative process in a second, but I'm still sort of on this business kick. So you pretty much launched your first product, which was the Creativity Cleanse. Now, how did you build that first audience? What did you do to create that audience to launch that product to?
So since I already had a career as an artist, I was already quite well known in my art community locally.
Yeah.
And so, but no one was really on my email address because it was completely local. And so I invited people to get onto this
Just
new
your local
list.
friends.
Pretty
your
much. I mean,
network.
my parents
Yeah.
were on there. You know, it's like that. And friends. And literally, I was sending it out of my, I think it was Hotmail or Outlook or whatever it was at the time. And then one day it wouldn't send. And I was like, you know, I'm calling up, like, help. What's wrong? And they're like, well, it's you can't send more than 200 emails at one time. Because it had reached 200 people. Wow. And so I was like, oh. So then I made I had now 400 because I put 200 and then I started, you know, and I sent them on different days. And I couldn't send any other emails on those days because you could only send 200. And then I was like, I need to get a system. So then that's when I got actually eye contact was the first, and now I'm with one shopping cart.
Got it.
But you know, it's just
So you
built,
literally just personally invited people to your list, and that's how you started.
I
building your
totally
list.
did, and I just
I love these feminine interviews. I mean, the
I
difference between the feminine and the masculine, where I'm out there pounding ads, and you know, like.
Well, I mean, now I use marketing in a different way, you know, like but initially I didn't have money to do something like that. And I didn't even know to do something like that. I was just like, I need to tell people that I'm doing this. And I almost felt guilty, you know, like it was kind of like balancing. I don't want to intrude, but I want to share. And
I'm really glad you listened to that part.
yeah, like I want to share. And in my joy, I know that I'm here to inspire. And if I don't do that, I literally feel horrible. Like I literally feel horrible. So it's like I will move through my ego insecurities because I feel good when I do the thing that I need to do, even though it's not easy. I think that in anything that we do, there's always the ego. And that once we accept it, it doesn't have to debilitate. You know, it doesn't have to like limit. It actually can just be a partner because it's there. We all we're afraid of something or we feel a little bit superior or inferior. I mean, it's a dance and it's going on.
It's always there.
And so I don't think it's about getting rid of it. And maybe that can happen. Maybe that is possible. But I feel what softens the situation is the feeling of accepting that it is there and knowing it's there, and then also strengthening who's the leader. Because if the leader is the insecurity, then it's going to run the show. But if the leader is the vision, the inspiration, the desire, the ability to want to be, then if it's leading, then it's like, oh, okay, there's this insecurity, but it can strengthen me to do the thing I need. And we can actually start to use it to fuel the vision, to fuel the leader.
That's what I want my leader to be.
And that's the journey. We're all figuring out like who's our leader and like really taking care of that leader. So that he is strong or she is, you know, whatever she wants to be and can lead.
And I mean, it's so perfect because the path that we're all on really is facing that in some way.
Yeah.
You know, it's really to step into a life that you love, you have to face the point at which your insecurity meets the goal, the vision that you're taking on.
Yes.
And I think there's oftentimes this almost like illusion that, oh, well, you know, if I just had success, then I'd be secure, or then I'd feel the way I want to feel, or whatever it is. And that's never the case.
No.
You always have to actually feel that way. You have to feel that strength and face it prior to really stepping into your dream. That's at least been my experience.
Totally, mine as well. And I feel that then once I kind of reach one level of what the vision was, then there's another whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's just as uncomfortable.
And it's like, oh my gosh, now it's like it ups the ante each time. And I'm like, wow, like, and so it never goes away. That's why I'm like, you know what, just for me, I just accept it, find a way to work with it, strengthen the leader, and because it'll keep fueling it forward. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so let's keep following this thread. So you invited everybody, you got them all on your list, you launched your first product. What was the shift that made things really start to take off, where, you know, you're doing these incredible interviews with people all over the world and these amazing art projects, and, you know, your business explodes? Like, what created that next level shift?
The next level was infusing my uniqueness into the bigger projects. Like, so when I did the creativity cleanse, I mean, yes, it was about creativity, but I was learning the structures and systems. So now when I look, that's why there's a second edition. The first one, I believe in it, and it was awesome, but it was limited to what I could do. Yeah. And the more I allowed myself to infuse my unique perspective, my leadership into anything I did, it's like it just got more and more magnetic. And people started coming to me, and, you know, and I set up the structures and systems. I set it up so there's an opt-in, so I don't have to invite each person. I mean, you know, and so thousands of people can come in. And so it wasn't just necessarily one thing. It was like a bunch of things, an ecosystem. But that the one thing that made the ecosystem grow was that I made the decision to infuse my uniqueness into whatever I was going to do. So I made it fun for me. I made it like, and it felt risky because there was no example.
You took bigger risks.
I took bigger risks on many levels, and there was no one that was validating that it would work, that it was good, that anyone would care. But I made the decision.
Wow.
I made the decision. I'm going to infuse me into it, and even if I wasn't going to be successful, knowing that I did that was kind of enough for me. I mean, like I'm willing to, and I still am this way now, kind of relentlessly willing to do the thing that I feel is what I need to do, whatever that is going to require of me.
Yeah.
Because I actually feel like an Olympic athlete, and I'm training every day to be myself. And I get pleasure from that level of elite training. I get pleasure from the challenge, even though I'm scared and like I can be literally in a heap on the floor of like, oh my God, how? Yeah. I also am happy that I'm there because I know I'm there because I have taken every step I can to be who I'm here to be.
And you've magnetized people to you for that reason, and you've really built this unique business. You know, I mean, you truly just do art, and like everything that you do, whether it's a product or this or that, it's you, and it's just art, and people show up and they spend lots of money, and it's great.
You know, there's people they'll come in the beginning. People will come to my studio. They're like, I don't know why I'm here. Why am I here? Like, is this art studio? I'm like, and it's like there is a magnetism that happens when people land in their essence. Yeah. They're embodying their spirit, and it's magnetic. And
so, I like this. How can we infuse our what you call essence into what it is we're doing more? You know, how do we make everything we're doing us, more of us? You know, not some means to an ends or this, that, but it's us. How do we do that?
We have to know ourselves. Ooh, we have to know what is your essence, and how do we know it? So that's almost the bigger question. How do we know ourselves? And this is a relationship that you'll have for your whole life, all of us, me, everyone, that you're getting to know who you are, and you're allowing the belief in that like what you discover of yourself to inform decisions. So there's a level of get to know yourself. Can you trust yourself? Because if you trust, you will do what you feel to do. But that's a healing process right there. Can we trust? Do we listen? Why don't we listen? And we get to know our own patterns and matrices that determine what we're about. And to get to know ourselves, like that's really what it boils down to. So how do we do that? And for some people, yes, observation is a way, meditation. Some people love just sitting still. Other people are going to go crazy and they're going to hate it. And that's not a way for them to what they'll get to know is that they don't like that. So we find our ways. For me, it was nature, art, dancing, doing things where I can feel my body, working with colors. Like that was a way for me. But other people, that it might be sports. Yeah. So we find our method of entry. Yeah. And once we have that method of entry, we have access to here. And so finding that, and again, is it joyful? When you feel like you just want to do it, it doesn't need to feel like, oh, I should do that. You just want to, that's your door. And just keep going, and then you start stretching the door a little and it opens and more information, downloads start coming in. But like we start like moving through to find our way to enter. So we have a relationship.
There's this marvelous process that is mysterious and magical. And all of the greatest people in the world, whether it's Einstein or artists, talk about how you can only take an idea so far. You take it to its edge, and then you have to let it go, completely stop thinking about it. Like Einstein said, he used to just stop and go take a bath or something like that. And then in the middle of that nothingness, the number one solution emerges. The thing nobody could figure out just comes.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. Love it.
So,
shall we break it down?
Yes, let's break this down because I want to go deeper into this.
Totally. It's the creative process. Yes. Okay. I love talking about this. This is really about like breaking down the anatomy of creativity. The anatomy, how do we access the genius ideas? Because we've all had moments, in the shower or wherever it is, we have these moments and it just like the download comes like, oh my gosh. And we weren't pushing to make it happen. It just came. So in our business, the way that we can do this is really, we want to start by setting an intention. Like, what do we want a download for? What do we want creativity for? Because the energy of creativity is moving around, like it's all here, but it's like, it needs like a magnet to say, oh, that's where you want me to go. So when we ask a question or we set an intention, we become a magnet for some energy to start to come to it. So in business, my contract, for example, to walk the 10,000 kilometers so I could link art and money. So this was an intention. So I started becoming like a magnet for that. I had no idea how that was going to happen, but I was a magnet for it. And so that's like the first step. We have to decide. We have to be clear on like, what are we going to magnetize? What do we want answers on, creativity for? What's it for? Why? Then we need to I actually believe we need to connect to our physical reality, because if it remains in the ethers, it doesn't have a place to land. So a lot of times you'll see very creative people and they can be like really out there, and I can go way out there, but is it materializing in reality? And if it's just out there in concepts and people have ideas, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they haven't actually done anything, what that tells me is that they're missing the second step in the creative process. And that is that it's not physically embodying. They have not let their body be a channel for this energy. So the energy is just like zipping by in ideas, possibly, if it even gets to that point, but it isn't able to actually take shape. So anything that allows a person to connect physically to their body, it could be a walk, it could be a shower, right? Because in the shower, you're sensually aware. So you're actually feeling. And once you've embodied, now you are gravity for energy to come. And in that space of gravity, yes, there's a point where you're releasing that question or that intention, but you're the gravity, so you're in your feeling space, gravity, and if you've done the work to know what your joy is, and you're in that, then you're going to start getting the answers that resonate to like what your essence is. So there's sort of this whole blend. The main thing that feels really important right now in this moment is the idea of gravity. Because once we understand how do we have gravity, and this ties into income, it ties into magnetism, it ties into the new paradigm of what's going on, and the earth has gravity. And that's why we stay here. That's why we're not like floating around. So in ourselves, we have to connect to the earth so that we have gravity. And the way we connect to the earth is through our physical reality. So anything that we do that allows us to have a drink of water and you feel the water go down your throat, well, you've made yourself physical. You've given yourself gravity in that moment. And things are going to start to come to you.
So
the other piece, I have to
powerful.
add, yeah.
Is there a third?
Well, I want to add, when you're feeling physical, you're in feeling versus thinking. And when you're in feeling versus thinking, you can have ideas come in that are beyond your mind. And that is part of like where a genius idea comes. It might come through your mind because it's like, oh, I see this, I hear, words.
Yeah.
But you're in a feeling space. So your mind is no longer in a box. It suddenly is in like, it's like it's in a fan or it's open and things can come in. And so it's no longer a mental idea. It's an idea truly that has come in through the gravity of your energy from, the universe. Because when we have creative ideas, people will always say, gosh, it just felt like it just came. It really does come from source, from somewhere. But we need to let it in, and it will come through letting the mind shift to feeling, being gravity, having an intention, so there's like the magnet for it.
That is huge. I mean, I actually feel great because I've naturally seen this process evolving in me, but I've never known it that well. I've never like had that, oh my God, like that's it sort of moment. But to recount, it's you ask the question, you set the intention. What do you need right now? What's the answer you're looking for? What's the creative solution to the problem, right? You ask the question, set the intention, you let it go, and go get in your body. You bring that physical energy in, and just wait. Just have faith. Yes.
I would add to that too, that getting in our body is sometimes as simple as, like, say you're in a moment and you can't go for a walk. You can't, and it's like, oh my gosh, how can I get my body now? And then it's like, can I feel what's my breathing? What does this wood feel like? Anything that allows for like the physical reality to be feeling, that is getting in your body and out of your head, because you have to feel. So that's really the shift there of the reason why we go to get in our body is so that we feel versus think. So when I'm wanting to download like a creative idea or solution for something, and I'm wanting to infuse like the next level of energy through, I will tune in to myself, my essence, my leader, and I'll just make sure, is she nurtured? Is she getting what she wants? So is your leader receiving, acting, being, doing, getting the recognition that he wants? And then you start to note, it'll be like all of a sudden you start to see a gleaming part. And you mentioned it. It's like, oh, I don't spend as much time with friends. So then you start to know, where's the balance of your essence expression needing to have some, like a little more fullness, because it'll bring the ecosystem into harmony. And in that space of harmony, the idea can come. As I've listened to my essence isn't interested in filling someone else's needs. and that's the honesty. And once I claimed that, at first I was like, oh, guilty. What's wrong with me? But then I was like, no. She wants to inspire. So it's not always problem-led, but it can just be a desire for the next level. So first you want to claim, like, what is the question, the inquiry, it could be problem or intention. And then you're looking at, like, what is your essence? What is your leader? And really, like, look at what is the ecosystem that your essence needs to be in its full state of being. And then you'll notice, you'll see a spot. It's like, oh, that I haven't allowed that, or that something over there wants my attention. And then you let yourself give yourself the thing that you need for your ecosystem.
That makes a lot of sense. Laura, okay, so what's next for you? What are you feeling? What's your sort of personal growth edge? What are you stepping into next?
Oh my gosh. So I love expanding into the next level. I'm really here to be doing the next level is global art projects. I've already been doing this to a degree, but I'm feeling it's like the next level where the art is actually a tool for activism for the earth, and having business structures integrated in it so that it is sustainable and it actually can create almost a new model of how can we give our gifts that is viable as a business but serves to be part of this ecosystem of our world and really like integrated with the earth. So I'm feeling the next level for me is having my art be a tool for activism for the earth and having it also have a sustainable, viable business structure allowing that to happen. So that's where I'm already doing it, but it's just like it's going to the next level of it.
Taking it to the next level, global. Oh, my dear, that is incredible. One more thing I wanted to share. Look at what she brought. She's so intuitive that she shows up.
Because we've never met before in person.
We've never met. It's the first time we're meeting in person. And I have amethyst all over my house, everywhere. And she's like, what's the gift for Jonathan? So she shows up with amethyst, which is this beautiful purple color, wrapped in this marvelous purple little fabric, with me wearing my purple shirt, and, amethyst everywhere. So she's tapped in. Laura, this has been so powerful to help us all connect more to our creativity and to ourselves and to birth, it's really important to us into the world. And I love the birthing analogies right now because I'm about to be a dad.
Yeah, congratulations. Amazing.
So tell us, how can we connect with you from here forward? Where does everybody go to connect with Laura?
So my website, and I do have an opt-in that
yes!
if it draws, if it feels magnetic to people, and actually in relation to what we've been talking about, I have a free quiz, and it's called "What Kind of Creative Spirit Are You?" And that essentially helps to clarify your essence.
Cool. Take the quiz.
Yes.
Have you taken the quiz yet? What is your creative essence?
Yes. So that's people
cool.
can learn about me through my website, and then that's available if people want to go deeper to know about their essence, their own leader, to activate their creativity.
Well, thank you so much. You have inspired us all with your commitment to really live this life and what it takes, and staying so true to yourself. It's just been such an honor and blessing. I'm so glad we get to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, thank you so much. It's amazing to have you as part of this community, and I'm feeling really great about what we're all creating right now. Let's keep evolving. Talk to you later.
Bye.